When we work with, let's say, a warehouse manager that knows that he's currently paying too much detention fees and he's not keeping up with their schedule, work with this person, understand, okay, that's the thresholds, that's what you want to measure, let's do that, let's work for 1 week, have a baseline, and then start providing you the information. Shift to your team. We work with the team to make sure that they understand how to. We are there to help them. We are not there to replace them.
Welcome into another edition of our Cargo Wreck series where we are talking about AI use cases in logistics. And today we are talking with Sarit Tamir. She is the CEO and co-founder of Seeteria, where they are attempting to eliminate the messy middle in warehouse operations. And not just attempting, but actually doing that. And we're going to talk about those customer stories a little bit later on in the episode. But first off, first and second, I want to welcome you to the show. And then also, I want to hear more about where the company name Seeteria came from.
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for having me in the podcast. And that's really exciting. About our name, actually, it's quite of a family experience. Started at we were in a trip to Rome, and of course, we visited the Vatican. And there was one statue of a goddess that really caught my eye, and I went over and checked, and it said that this is Soteria, and she is the goddess of preservation and resilience.
That I love that name, and I'm trying to be objectional in these types of interviews that we're doing for Cargo Rex. But you told me that story before we started recording, and I was like, I have to hear it. It gives me goosebumps to hear it because I didn't even know that goddess existed. But what a great name! What a great sort of I guess role to or a
Yeah,
symbolism to take
exactly.
into this industry.
That's what we are trying to do. We just made a small adjustment and changed the so in the beginning into C to reflect what we are doing, which is using computer vision to achieve those goals. So yeah, that's the story. That's the story. My story behind the name Citeria.
Well, I love thoughtful business names because it shows that you thought really long and hard about it, and then also that could kind of cue into what you do within your business is seeing more and fixing that what do they call it, the messy middle of warehouse operations. And that's what I was reading from your website, and it was things that I didn't even really consider, from monitoring workloads. And I guess let me have you tell the story of what your company does at a high level and your target audience or target customers.
What Citeria is doing is giving the warehouse teams real-time visibility into how work is actually flowing on the floor. We use the existing CCTV cameras you already have on site. Sometimes people are confused and they're asking me if we are selling security cameras. We are not. We are a software-only company. We use the cameras that you already have on site. With them, we observe the activity on the floor, and we turn those movements into operational signals, like queues at the docks, idle open doors, staging areas that are filling up, dwell, loading poses, and near-miss interactions. They all seem like small events, but when everything adds up, it's a lot of time that is being wasted. So what do we do with this information? The floor on the team receives those signals as live alerts in real time to a mobile app. So they know when something is happening and they need to act really quickly to fix that before it becomes a major issue on the floor. And the managers can go into the system after the shift, investigate, know exactly what has happened, get all the information that they need, because what we find is that this information is currently missing. Everybody is using WMS. We are not here to replace that, but this gap, this invisible middle that you mentioned, is what's happening on the floor between the scans.
And so for a lot of that, I guess that I guess paint the picture of what a bad operation looks like. What are some of those alert examples that a manager would be getting that could cause future issues?
Okay, I don't think that this is a signal of a facilities that is not well operated,
Hmm.
because even if the facilities that we work with, even those that had very experienced teams and were using software, still a lot of events that were unexpected, unplanned, were happening. And for example, when a truck comes over, it connects to the door is open, but nothing happens. Forklifts are not coming, no work is being done, and sometimes they come over, they drop some pallets, and they just go. And it's sometimes really easy to say to the supervisors, you had to be there. But most facilities are very big. And the people on the floor, you know the statistics, they say that they walk or run about 5 to 10 miles each day.
Hmm.
So nobody can be everywhere all the time. So these things go unnoticed even in the best managed facilities.
So it almost sounds like these little minor things that you wouldn't think too much of, they compound over days and weeks and even months.
Yeah, and even in one shift, because sometimes it looks like, oh, okay, it was just 5 minutes, or maybe the staging area was filling up, and yeah, we know that the forklifts were shuffling their way to find the pallet they needed, but it didn't take long. But when we measure that in the system, and as you said, we add everything up, it's hours.
And then those hours are obviously affecting, bottom lines and profit and loss statements, and that compounds over time. And so
Exactly.
for your business and for your software, you plug directly into the already existing cameras. Is there, a set amount of cameras that typically exist in a warehouse, or is it, are there certain cameras that provide more value versus other cameras?
It never happened that we came to a facility and the cameras were not good enough.
And so when they're not good enough, then that's when you have to make the
No,
suggestion.
sorry, I didn't explain it well. All standard industry cameras are completely fine to be used with our software.
Okay. And so once they walk me through what I guess a typical onboarding process looks like, what kind of customers are, I guess, are a good fit? And then how
Mhm.
do you make sure that they're taking full advantage of the software during the onboarding process?
So, customers we are aiming at are warehouses, distribution and fulfillment centers, 3PLs, usually medium to large. Well, you mentioned before that sometimes people don't even know that the problem exists. So, for us as a startup, it's really
Mhm.
important at that point to work with companies who understand there is an issue of lost time. And then the onboarding from our side is quite simple. The hard work from our side was already done when we developed the
Mhm.
software. And it was really important for us to create a solution that is really simple to bring in, to implement, and to use, because it's all about the customer experience and the value. So we come over. What we need is a Wi-Fi connection to the cameras, okay, and internet connection to send the data, the process data to the cloud. It usually takes 2 to 3 days to set everything up, even less.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then because we do not connect to any system, there's no integration.
So it
We do
makes it
not.
the sign up probably very simple and maybe within days that you can get set up.
Yeah, usually it takes a day or two. So we come over, we connect to the cameras, and then we start processing to create a baseline. Because
Oh, interesting.
at that point, the most important thing is to show value. So to see an improvement, first we create a baseline. So we measure the KPIs of all the friction points, where time is lost, where work is stuck. Okay, where I I also mentioned the near misses, and what I mean is a near miss of a forklift and a person.
Hmm.
Okay, so we measure all these friction points, and then we bring on board the users, and we keep measuring. And then what you see is once they start using that, and a supervisor, although he's somewhere between the aisles, making sure that his picking is going correctly, he currently doesn't know that there's a queue of forklift forming at one of the doors. But the cameras do see that. So at that point, he gets an alert on his phone telling him he needs to go there. So just think about it. At that moment, we saved time that improved the dock utilization and prevented potential fines because of the driver's detention. And when you look at all these alerts, real-time alerts, and the ability of the supervisors of the team to be in better management of their time, you get also improved labor management. So much work done in minutes that otherwise would have been lost.
Hmm. Do you find that a lot of your customers don't even know it's a problem yet, or maybe they have some of these issues until they start using your software where it's plugged into the entire warehouse? It almost feels like they don't know what they don't know, but when they do know, they can address that problem and make these incremental improvements.
Actually, this is a real marketing issue. Because this is not something that our manager who is looking to improve will go into Google and ask, is there a vision system that can help me save time? But when I speak to people and I describe the issue, everybody's saying, yeah, yeah, we know, we have that. But we are trying to solve that with getting more experienced people and hiring more people. And some of the issues they say, okay, so we didn't think that we can improve that. So that's a gap. That's a gap of time that we can now provide with computer vision, with image processing, and I'm going to say it only once because I hate that people overuse it, with AI. So we bring this lost time back.
Well, I think that that's a really good use case for AI, and I know for a lot of folks, they have some exhaustion around the phrase. I think it's probably used in situations where it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. But people have used AI for years. I mean, if you use Google, if you use spell check, things like that, that's all AI. And so I think what the AI is what's happening here and what you're describing is that we can be smarter about things that we didn't know was a problem and didn't know existed, where even the most experienced managers might have these gaps because they can't be everywhere at once. But this software allows you to be everywhere at once within the warehouse, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually, there's an example that I really like. One one person told me, I feel like I'm currently have the superpower of teleporting.
Yeah, that I mean, I could definitely see where especially from a manager perspective of where they would need to go. You have probably a set amount of things that you do every day, a routine, and then you don't know it's a problem until the end of the shift. Whereas it sounds like with your system now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this a separate app or is it an app that sits inside of the WMS, or how do you interact with the alert
No,
system?
no, we work along the WMS. We do not integrate with the WMS.
Okay, and so what does that look like? Is it a bookmark on your phone, or
No,
a
it's an app.
browser tab?
It's an app.
Oh, okay. So it's an app that you get push notifications whenever
Yeah.
something is
So,
going on.
okay. So there are two types of users to the Seeteria app. What I mentioned until now was the live view that is usually used by the floor team. So they get the notifications in real time, and they can also communicate with the other team members. So it won't happen that two people are gonna go and attend with the same event. So this is for the floor team. But now let's think what's going on with the managers, because when the shift was completed, the manager can open the app, and okay, they can also run it on the computers on the browser, and then they can look at the summaries of everything. And for example, to see where there were reoccurring events. Okay, so let's say that you are a manager and you open the shift summary and you want to see what happened last week on Wednesday on the morning shift. So you get a summary of the events. So if, for example, you see that in staging area number 4, it was filling up. It was filling up at 10 in the morning, and then 1 hour later. And so you see a pattern. You see that something is happening that needs your attention. Okay, so you get all the information of what happened, all the execution data that now you can use to better improve how things are being managed on the floor. It's really important to give the people on the floor the information in real time, but the people who are responsible to improving the processes and identifying problems are the managers.
Gotcha. So two different use cases within the same warehouse, but still providing that incremental value.
Yeah.
Where does is so it sounds like you have your system, and then how does AI play a role on top of it? Is it giving recommendations in the summary? Is it maybe a chat box where you can have a conversation with it? Where does AI play a role?
Well, since we are not doing LLM, and that's not any generative AI, we work differently. What our AI is doing is doing the analysis of the video stream. Our
Okay, okay.
input is not data, and is not letters. Our input is the video. So when we analyze that, we identify the object, and we identify their behavior, and we predict what kind of activities are about to happen. So when you have the trajectory of the objects, and you have the location of them, and you have your history data, then you are able, even if you see just, let's say, two forklifts at a dock, but you see other forklifts moving at that direction, and that's something that you saw happening in the previous days, the system is able to identify that an issue is about to happen and alert the manager when the problem is still small. So yeah, that's the AI part.
Gotcha, and so it sounds like it could be a system of not only performance monitoring, but able to catch something before it becomes a larger issue.
Yeah, exactly. That's the training of the algorithm, and that's the predicting part. And in addition, what I described before was the shift view, where the manager can go back and see everything that has happened and see the connections between the events and how all the KPIs are presented over there. But that's not all. Because once you have the information in the system, and yeah, that will take several months. When you have everything, now the system starts recognizing patterns and anomalies and making all the connections. So you don't have to make them yourself. The system actually surfaces everything and provides you with all these insights, so you can change things in the process, in the training, in understanding where you have too many forklifts or people working in one part of the facility and not enough in the other.
And so then you're gathering these insights, and then the company is gathering the insights and then can make those actionable decisions. And with a lot of the KPIs that were mentioned, I think idle time, queue minutes, congestion duration, dwell time, recurring flow patterns. I would imagine that this surfaces a lot of trends for these companies to be able to take action in the future. And I believe you had a pretty interesting use case with one of the larger customers, probably in the world. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
We worked with Coca-Cola last year. We validated our technology with them, but the use cases were different. Okay, they were customized to their internal needs. So they are not the use cases that we are speaking about now. But what it gave us as a software house, as a software vendor, is the verification that the algorithms are excellent and are providing exactly what they should do.
So it almost sounds like that was the Coca-Cola case study was almost a baseline for your software, and then maybe something that some other players or some other customers could learn from, for a company that's been around for I think more than 100 years. And so maybe the way that they do things is something that is a good study of how other places can make improvements in their messy middle of warehouse operations.
Yeah.
So what is there a particular use case or a particular customer that is a best fit right now? Is it, the enterprise customers with, hundreds of thousands of square feet of warehouse space? Is it maybe some smaller warehouse operators? Or what is a good use case for the Seeteria technology?
I think that it's less about the size of the facility. Of course, it won't make sense to do any implementation for a facility that has like less than 10 doors, okay? But when we go beyond that, for us, it's more important who are the people that we are working with.
Oh, interesting.
So sometimes in corporates, the challenge is that the people who are in charge of the implementation on site are not the decision makers. And when you want to do a really, really short pilot, you want to be able to work with the people who can communicate with you without needing to go to get any approval. And also to be those that are concerned about the problem and are committed to solve it. Because when we work with, let's say, a warehouse manager that knows that he's currently paying too much detention fees and he's not keeping up with their schedule, so we can work with this person, understand, okay, that's the thresholds, that's what you want to measure, let's do that, let's work for 1 week, have a baseline, and then start providing you the information through the shift to your team. We work with the team to make sure that they understand how to use the system, although it's really simple. And he is or she is involved to actually make sure that they are on board, understand that we are there to help them. We are not there to replace them.
Yeah, I think that that's a concern for a lot of or a growing concern really for a lot of workers is that if they even hear the phrase AI or technology, it feels almost like either it's going to take my job or it's a burden to learn this new system. But when you can show folks exactly what's happening, the problems that it's solving, and the problems that it's fixing, maybe these things the customer or even the warehouse worker just weren't even aware of. So these incremental betterments only get better if you actually know that they exist and the manager
Yeah,
can
and if you
communicate to the.
act on them and solve them, because if a worker will get an alert and they will ignore that, I can have the best best technology, no improvement will happen. That's why it's crucial to pilot in facilities where everybody is on board and really want it to succeed, because there's a benefit to everybody. For the managers, of course, they want to save time, they want to save money, but for the workers as well, because you don't want to be stressed out the entire time, to be running all over, and always to be afraid that something will go unnoticed and you might lose your job. So we are there to support them, to empower them, not to replace anybody.
And so you had mentioned earlier that it don't really only takes a couple of days and a Wi-Fi connection in order to sync in with their CCT or CCTV cameras. And you mentioned the establishing a baseline, from after your cameras are, integrated or, set up properly. How long is the baseline process? And then when do you expect to start getting some actionable feedback or actionable alerts?
Well, it depends on the level of the activity in the facility, okay? Because we need data. So, in average, it's about 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it would be much longer, like
No,
months
no,
at a
no, no, no.
time.
Well, it depends. If it's winter time and there's a very low activity, it will take more because we don't have enough data to train the algorithms and to establish a baseline. Yeah, if it's summertime and there's a lot of activity, and especially actually we love summertime because when not all the team is the experienced guys, and there are a lot of seasonal workers, and everything is so much more hectic and difficult to manage, that's where we show value very quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so now that with the full understanding of the implementation process, which sounds very low barrier of entry, and then fixing those things that could happen not just on a one-time basis but ongoing, that could be addressed maybe in future employee onboarding and future employee trainings, and so those savings just compound over time. And I imagine the safety scores within your business also increase, and then maybe that could lead to, I know at least on the trucking side of things, if you're a safer carrier, then that leads to cheaper insurance. And so I would imagine that maybe that has some ripple effects within the warehouse too, is that if you have uphold a certain safety standard, then your employees are happier, they're getting the job done more efficiently, and then maybe you can save some money on insurance costs as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I think that that's a good place to leave it. Well, a couple more questions. Anything that you feel is important to mention that we haven't already talked about?
Not at the moment, but I'm sure that once we hang up, I'll think of something.
If only we had, the Soteria alerts for ourselves. So we could, have that. Maybe that's a future product idea for you guys, is that, we can have our own personal Soteria that tells us, and, when we can be more
Okay,
resilient.
okay, that's something I need to consider.
It would be a lot. You'd have to have access to a lot of cameras and data. So that's the only caveat. But I'm just joking. But all right. So, Sarit, where can I send folks, get signed up for a demo, talk with you? I'll add all of those links in the show notes.
On our website, there's a link to the contact page. Just leave your details, and we'll be in touch with you.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will make sure to put that in the show notes just to make it easy for folks. But Sarit, this was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks you so much for having me.
If you've heard companies mentioned on Everything is Logistics, chances are Cargo Rex is where buyers go next to keep researching. That is the point. Cargo Rex gives logistics companies a place to be discovered, understood, and shortlisted long after an episode ends. Set up your company profile at cargorex.io and make it easier for buyers to find you.